Hello students. Yes, in the previous video we had discussed that what are saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons, and we had discussed that alkane, alkene and alkynes, right? Today we are going to discuss the difference between the saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbon, right? So the very first difference is that there is a single covalent bond between the two carbon atoms, where in the saturated hydrocarbon. For example, the examples are ethane, then propane, etc. Just see the structure of these compounds. This is ethane. Ethane having two carbon atoms, but there is a single covalent bond between two carbon atoms. Whereas propane having three carbon atoms, there is a single covalent bond between the carbon atoms, right? So saturated hydrocarbons are those where there is a single covalent bond between the two carbon atoms. Now, the unsaturated hydrocarbon, they are the compounds having double or triple covalent bond between two carbon atoms. For example, if you see this molecule, this is ethene. So what is there? There is a double bond between the two carbon atoms. This is ethene. Then this is propene. This is ethyne, having the triple covalent bond between the two carbon atoms, right? So this is ethyne. What is that? That means alkene and alkyne having double and triple covalent bond. They are the unsaturated hydrocarbon. The second point is very important point. The saturated hydrocarbons, they give substitution reaction. Right? Substitution means if any atom is substituted by the other atom, right? That is known as substitution. So here comes one example. You see here, this is methane, CH4. Right now carbon is associated with have how many hydrogen? 4 hydrogen, right? But when it combines with chlorine in presence of sunlight, right? What happens? One of the chlorine displaces or one of the hydrogen from methane, right? So what happens? This one hydrogen is replaced by one chlorine, and then what the molecule is formed? CH3Cl, chloromethane, right? So what is this? That means one hydrogen is substituted by one chlorine atom, and then the substituted hydrogen combines with another chlorine to form HCl. So what example this is? This is the example of what? That the saturated hydrocarbons, they give substitution reaction. On the other hand, children, the unsaturated hydrocarbon, what do? They give addition reaction. Addition means something is added, right? So just see here, I have drawn here ethene. Means there is a double covalent bond between the two carbon atoms, right? Now, when it combines with chlorine under the suitable conditions of temperature and catalyst, then what happens? One of the chlorine atom comes over here and the other chlorine atom comes over here. So what happens? Both the chlorine atom, they get added to this ethene. And then as a result of that, what happens? The double bond is removed, and that happens into the single covalent bond. Fine. So this forms CH2Cl, CH2Cl, 1,2 dichloroethane. Fine. So that means what? The unsaturated hydrocarbon, they give what? The addition reaction, and the saturated hydrocarbon, they give substitution reaction. What is the reason behind it? The reason is, children, that that in the saturated hydrocarbon, fine, all the electrons of every carbon atom, they are occupied by, or they are bonded with the 4 different electrons of different atoms. Fine. Now what happened? There is no free valency left where a single chlorine atom can be added. What happens? Then one of the hydrogen is replaced, right? And that replaced position is occupied by one chlorine. Fine. That is what is the substitution. That is what is the substitution reaction. Fine. So substitution reaction are given because of the unavailability of free electron. No free electron is available in the saturated hydrocarbon. That is why they give substitution reaction. On the other hand, unsaturated give addition reaction because of the availability of free electrons. If you remember in the video we have discussed why double bond appears between the 2 carbon atoms. The reason is when both the carbon atom, they do not get any other electron with which they can share. So what happens? If they have one electron which is left out unbonded, right? So if you remember, I had discussed that time being temporarily, what do? They share between themselves and create a double bond between the 2 what? CH2. Now when there is availability of electrons over here in the form of Cl2, then what happens? This double bond is what? Removed, and the free electrons which were here before, they are occupied by this chlorine atom. And as a result, both the chlorine atoms, they are joined on both the carbon atoms. But what happens? The double bond disappears. There is no double bond over here. Right? So this is what the difference between saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbon. Thank you, Sivan.